I've entitled today's reflection or meditation, "The Power of Touch and the Power of Imagination." The power of touch. The Gospels frequently tell us of Jesus touching someone to heal or to bless. In Mark 10, for example, Jesus takes young children in his arms and blesses them. And in Matthew 8, Jesus stretches out his hand to touch a leper, and then later touches the hand of a sick woman, healing them. The power of imagination. Imagination is a quality which is often missing from Christianity today, and yet imagination has the capacity to touch our hearts in a way that nothing else can. And through a variety of images, metaphors, pictures and stories, we can begin to make sense of our experience and are helped to see, feel, and act differently. It is through these various creative ways that we are helped to feel again and experience everything there is to be experienced. And so this morning, I invite you to join with me in a story of imagination. And today's story is called The Touching Place. The Touching Place. We've done one of these meditations earlier in the year, and the important part of it is to try to make yourself comfortable, which is not easy. In churches' pews, we're not made to make one feel comfortable. I think in the old days, the idea was to make it as uncomfortable as possible so that you didn't fall asleep. But what I'm hoping that you might do with your padded seats is make yourself as comfortable as possible. I'm going to tell a story. Perhaps you shut your eyes and go with the flow and imagine being in this story. And when the story finishes, we'll have a short period of silence, a short prayer, and then a hymn. So at this moment in time, make yourself as comfortable as you possibly can in your pew. Shut your eyes, if that helps, and I'm going to try to set the scene of a story and just try to imagine being part of it and try to imagine how you feel during the story as well. Okay, here we go. The setting is a Saturday afternoon. It's a lovely day, and you have nothing planned this day. And so you walk to a coffee shop, and you're sitting at a table by yourself. The coffee shop is not busy that day. And then a short time later, you're joined by a young man. This young man has got longish hair, and you would say he's probably in his 30s. He asks if he may join your table. He's a very pleasant person, easy to talk with, seems very caring, and you find yourself warming to this person, trusting this stranger. He asks your name. He asks how you normally spend your time and what you do now or did for a living. And you tell him. And then you in turn ask the young man about himself. And he tells you that his name is Josh, and about a place nearby where he works. And when you both have finished your coffees, Josh invites you to come with him and meet some of the people that he works with. So you leave the coffee shop together and walk along the road for a few minutes. And then you go with Josh up a long driveway to a large house. And above the door of the house is the name, The Touching Place. Josh introduces you to his friends at the house and asks you if you will shake hands with each of them in turn. His friends are gathered together in a circle in a room. The first person Josh introduces you to is Mary. Mary is in her early 20s. Mary is a street worker, a prostitute. She came from a broken home and has been on the street since she was 16. You shake hands with Mary. Sitting next Mary is Toby. Toby is also in his early 20s. Toby is a drug addict. Unlike Mary, Toby came from a privileged home. He went to a prestigious school. His family purchased him a car on his 18th birthday, and he had a magnificent celebration at one of the major hotels in the city for his 21st. But somehow things went downhill from there, and he is now estranged from his family. You shake hands with Toby. Sitting next Toby is Jean. Jean is in her late 50s. Jean is a homeless person. Jean trained as a nurse and was married to a policeman for 25 years. They had 2 children, and Jean stayed at home when the children were young before returning to nursing. Jean's marriage broke down last year, and now she is sleeping in her car. You shake hands with Jean. Sitting next Jean is Peter. Peter is in his mid-40s. Peter was a victim of sexual abuse that was covered up by the Catholic Church. And Peter now suffers from ongoing mental health issues. You shake hands with Peter. Now, sitting next Peter is a young couple, and Josh introduces Amy and Lewis. They're in their late 30s. They're grieving. They recently lost their longed-for baby. And you shake hands with both of them. And next them is seated Dawn, and Josh introduces you to Dawn. Dawn is in his mid-40s. Dawn is an asylum seeker. He escaped war and violence in his own country, And he was so desperate that he came to Australia on a boat and is awaiting processing. It has been several years that he has been waiting. And you shake hands with Dawn. And finally, you come to the last person in the circle. The last person is a young girl, a young Aboriginal girl called Kathy. Kathy is only 8 years old. And Josh explains to you that Kathy has been suffering from rheumatic heart disease, a disease that's all but forgotten in Australia, except among Aborigine and Torres Strait Islander people. Josh goes on to explain that the contributing factors here are poverty, overcrowding, and limited access to medical care. And yet, says Josh, we in Australia live in one of the richest countries in the world. You stretch out your hand and you shake hands with Kathy. Now, after a while, you say goodbye to Josh and those you have just met and make your way down the long driveway. And as you walk along, you wonder, who was it that I had greatest difficulty shaking hands with? Who amongst these people caused me the greatest distress to shake hands with? Who amongst these people made me think and feel there must be a better way? Was it Mary, the sex worker? Justin, the drug addict? Jean, the homeless person? Peter, the victim of sexual abuse? Amy and Lewis, the grieving couple? Dawn, the asylum seeker? Or was it Kathy, the Aboriginal child? Let us have a period of silence in which we reflect upon these people that we have just met. Gracious God, forgive what I have not felt, and so enlarge my heart that I never shrink from contact with your loved ones rejected by the world. Instead, teach me to care rightly in your name. Amen.